Ekonene. So kuna vile Boniface Mwangi anafaa kufikishwa kotini leo. Na atakuwa kifikishwa kotini juu ya a terrorism charge. And kuna vile hii story ilikuwa posted jana. I think ilikuwa posted jana at 8:25 am. Na wasi wa DCI Kenya. So wasi wa DCI walibaki wameandika Boniface Mwangi arrested over terror facilitation. Then kakwa Boniface Mwangi was arrested on Saturday, July 19th by detectives at his residence in Lukenya in Machakos County in connection with the facilitation of terrorist activities during June 25th, 2025 protests. So, kuna shtuka, history ya terrorism, lazima ubaki umejua that saizi gava imeamua kutumia fear kustop future protests. So, wanajua that if they tell people not to show up, people will still show up. But waki bring up stories of terrorism, then like the average Kenyan will start thinking like, hii story, nimesikia it's not a bailable offense in Kenya. You can be held for as long as possible, blah, blah, blah. So this is what the government is banking on. Alafu ikakuwa during the arrest, detectives recovered 2 mobile phones, a laptop, and several notebooks. Okay. Couldn't expect weapons, but wacha tuendelee. He was later escorted to his office at Mageuzi Hub, Rose Avenue in Hurlingham, where a search led to the recovery of 9 assorted external hard drives. Damn, okay, that's what terrorists use. 2 laptops, company seals from Brave Media Limited and Courage Limited, a company stamp 6 checkbooks, copies of stamp duty documents, 2 unused tear gas canisters, and 1.762 millimeter blank round. Okay, so hii terrorist activity jo inafanya nashindwa jo, tear gas canisters alafu 1.762 niko sure hizi ni zile wasa collect kazi imetumika during protest. Hizo ni terrorist activity. Then kaendelea, but Nini Mwangi is currently in custody at Pangani where he's undergoing processing to be arraigned then on Monday, July 21st for offenses related to facilitation of terrorist acts and unlawful possession of ammunition. Then of course wakabaki wameseti picha ya Boni. Alafu apart from that wakaseti the tear gas canister. Alafu wakaseti another tear gas canister. Alafu wakaseti a bullet unacheki ko used. So this is interesting and sad at the same time. It's sad because the president's advisors have advised him that using fear is what's going to make him somehow survive from the protests and survive from the anger that the youth are showing right now. And another thing that makes this whole story sad is, you see, when you do such a thing, the first thing that you expect is the people are going to be with you. Najua. So, ama advisors wa president vile walimwambia, wacha tu post hivi, niko sure alikuwa anamwambia, hey, after hivi, wakisharestiwa hivi, alafu you'll see the support that we'll get. So, wacha to go through the support. Kuna watu walikuwa wameshare video ya maguns wa Sakaja. Alafu ama guns wa Sakaja unacheki, hawa mshawashika. Then kaendelea, Kibet Bull cooked stories. Boniface Mwangi is a freedom fighter. Professor, unlike you DCI, we are not stupid. The Kenyan vigilante, like you guys are fools. Alafu Njugush, assorted hard drives. Wow, these are really dangerous weapons. Shaking my head. Alafu Dana said a total waste of time. Mwirigi, nonsense. Alafu I am Chege, DCI is being led by retards. Even a grade 1 pupil can see these are planted. When are you arresting Gaucho and his team of terrorists? Cheki so far, hatuja get any positive response. While the real terrorists waliua KDF officers last week in Lamu, silly people. Then kuna msanito Harun Kimani akasema, so in today's Kenya police state, a person loving his country is terrorism. Unacceptable. We need nationwide maandamano until the regime falls. Then kuna Mau grandson, because we are watching and documenting. Hapa wameseti some AI generated image of Lagat. Then atheists in Kenya society, the government is using fabricated terrorism charges to suppress dissent. Alafu of course akukosagi that one. So that one ni huyu Mugambi Amathi aliandika, Boniface Mwangi has turned activism into a personal business, profiting off chaos and attention. When activism crosses into incitement and actions that border on terrorism, the state must act. No one is above the law. Alafu Cecilia Bosira akamreply akamwambia, yes, loot billions, you're a leader, speak up against it, suddenly you're a terrorist. Boniface Mwangi didn't loot this country, he just made it harder to ignore. Miss us with a fake outrage, the only business thriving off chaos is the government. Then kuna msee, since we are in EAC, people who think like you also exist in Uganda. I think as much as aspects of federation have totally failed, oppression, propaganda and fear of criticism are uniting Uganda and Kenya. Shame as a country we once admired is becoming a bed of shit. And that's a Ugandan, I think. Then of course kuna watu yani, so like I'm trying to look for something positive apart from such characters. Kuna nganga Mkenya alisema Nelson Mandela was once labeled as a terrorist. True, anyone who fights against a bad regime is labeled a terrorist. Then yes, it goes downhill from here. And I don't know, like I always think about these things, and you expect the people around the president to at least in quotes protect the presidents, the presidency, and also protect the president. The minute that you show up and you call someone like Boniface Mwangi, who we've seen criticize Kibaki, criticize Kenyatta, be sued by Ruto for defamation, paka kapelekwa kotini alafu Ruto akadrop hizo charges. This guy is the guy that you want to tell us all of a sudden is a terrorist? Do you know one of the most interesting thing about terrorism hapa Kenya? Do you know that most terrorist alerts zile supataga Kenya supata from wasi wa CIA? So we get these alerts through inakuwaga ni like the US. So US wanaambiaga Kenya like eniaje kueni rada, Westgate inaweza happen, kuna nini act, kuna chata tunasikia ile inamaanisha kitu kama inaweza happen, do it inaweza happen. Of course sometimes the government doesn't act in time and then these things end up happening. Umse vile amekuwa accused of terrorism, saa hizi amekuwa kitravel to that country back and forth. I say for once hajaiwaambia ni aje mtu try to do some terrorist activities. Kuna sort of but this sort of terrorism does not affect foreigners, it affects everyone. Kuna hata mpaka wase, I think ni vile tulikuwa na Gloria alisema last week, alibonga juu story ya when you start claiming people are terrorists, watu wa nje wanashindwa like, do we want to invest in a country full of terrorists? But I don't know how to put this, like it's so frustrating. I think the person who was able to capture this in a better way, and I can capture it, he come to history, like even the things that they recovered pens, laptops, hard drives, place kama hapa iko nini ukikuja, kuna hizo laptops, kuna computers, kuna hard drives. And what I hate about this is the fact that eventually they'll start targeting even podcasts and online media, and what they do is they target your pocket. So watakuja wachukue your equipment and then say they're investigating. And this is something that makes no sense in any other country. I think kuna episode tulifanya na Ewotwe, make sure you look forward to that episode. And I was talking about how in a place called States tuliona last year where the FBI walibaki wameenda kwa Didi, and after going kwa Didi's place they raided it, got the evidence that they needed to do, and left Didi alone. Then in September, after they'd gone through his documents and what and the baby oil, they came and arrested him and then now charged him. In Kenya, a very different thing happens where they arrest you, then they take you to court, and then the court system is used for bullshit, because what the court does is these people will arrest you and ask the court, we need 10 days to investigate. But you've arrested this person. That should have been based on evidence and investigations. So we are stuck in this Nini where they are going to use the judicial system to frustrate people. Because itakuwa, don't release this person because they can facilitate terrorist activities. So nakaa kule ndani. Or we need his staff to investigate. Vitu zako za kuandoze na baki zimechukuliwa. Alafu wase wale wanaichukua kama mchezo, wanabaki wameichukua. Unajua ile attitude ya this can never happen to me, that ends up happening. But I think Jugush alibaki amepost a certain video that I found to be super interesting, and it was just mocking the whole situation of terrorism. Because sisi tunajuaga terror, and if you ask any person who's lived in Nairobi, like who had any sense of reasoning from 1998 atakwambia there is terror. 1998 after ile bomb tulikuwa tunaogopa kupita hiyo area ya railways, tulikuwa tunaogopa. Alafu what happened? Hiyo ikakuja ikapita. Westgate ika happen, watu walikuwa wanaogopa kwenda anywhere next to Westgate. After Westgate ku happen, dissent ikafanyika. Alafu pia I think around time ya Westgate ndio pia kulikuwa na think bus fulani ili explode Masai za Isili, and we used to live in fear. Unajua, like literally terror. For someone to claim that protest against his government is terrorism is to, I don't know. I don't even know which words to put it. But for them to then recover pens, computers, hard drives.
Fungua hapa terrorist. Hizo ni kalamu gapi?
Terrorist wa wapi?
Andika hapo 12 rounds of pens. Hizo ni kalamu unaona hapo?
Kalamu na terrorism inaingiliana hapo.
Pens are mightier than guns. Andika hapo. Madam, hiyo ni bomb. Hiyo si ni lip balm. Hiyo si ni lip balm. Andika. Kuja hapa. Hiyo si ni lip balm, madam. Hiyo si ni lip balm wewe. Hiyo si ni lip balm, tumekushika. Terrorist tumekushika. Mnajifanya. Sokesha hizo gari leteni na madam tumekushika. Hii nini? Hiyo naona nikiwa hapa.
Sio ni drive.
Hiyo ni ova. Kwa nini uko na nini za serikali? Hiyo nini ova? Hizo avocado mbili ni za hizo si ni ova. Hizo si ni za communication. Vile mtu
unacheki how ridiculous this is. Like alafu kitu ile inafanya this even becomes more ridiculous is Murkomen has been on the other side releasing statements trying to justify police violence on its citizens. That you're trying to justify why the police need to use lethal force. And sometimes I look at Kenya and you just get sad. Because we're in a situation whereby we made politics a business. And after making politics a business, it became a life and death situation for politicians. Because they know this is the quickest way to wealth. You know, the president, as a deputy president, was wearing maybe suits that 20,000 or 50,000 shillings. Now he's wearing a jacket of 7 million shillings. You can't just expect him to stop doing that. This is a business. He needs to thrive. And he needs this business. Like, this is in 3 years of leadership. This guy that we never saw wearing expensive stuff nowadays wears stuff that, of course, they have no resale value. So hata ukikuachia hiyo jacket, there's no one to sell to unless you get some wrapper somewhere. So it's useless stuff, literally. Like, the minute you buy it from the shop, zero resale value. Like, if you try to sell it to someone, they're like, Buddha, hii John ilinunua $48,000 jo, utaniuzia wacha nipoke $4,000 zi shilingi. Like, useless. Gari, of course, iko na resale value. Like, so let's not even go there. But hii kitu I think Njugusha li capture vizuri kabisa. Alafu sasa ukitaka kujua vile we're in a funny situation, this is the situation whereby now everyone has to start getting worried, because you have to know that the people around the president have made him believe that fear is somehow going to make people retreat. And watu hata retreat, the more that anatumia fear, the more wasi wataendelea kukasirika. And the more that watu wanakasirika, the more stories za one term zitabaki zikiendelea. Na apart from stories za one term, kuna vile like ile even mobilization high kabisa ya we need to come out and vote. Because this one person has standards. First of all, when the protest happened on June 25th, he came out and called people criminals. But sasa tumegraduate, tumetoka from criminality to terrorism. The worst crime in the world. Like, one of the worst crimes. Because what terrorism does is it targets innocent people who have nothing to do with anything. Boni haja target anyone innocent. Haja facilitate violence in any way. Hata ile time Boni ilikuwa inasemekana ukienda kwa ama conspiracy theorist kama umse inasemekana yuko Zambia, Obese aka Francis Gaido, utasikia kile wanasema June 25th last year they said Boni stopped the revolution because Boni asked people to go home. Because kumbuka Boni hakuwa anataka wasawa dedishwe. Sasa alikuwa ni aje endeni home. Kwa hadi to stop. Hata ule fala alithreaten Boni this year akisema that Boni akifika kwa street atamdedisha. What was his reasoning? Was like, this is the guy who's going to stop us from wanting to go to State House. Boni yuko on record akiambia wase hatu need history ya kwenda kwa State House z. That's not the Nini. That's not the goal here. The goal here is was to remember victims of June 25th and then go home. This is the guy now they want to accuse of terrorism. Yeah, and that's why I feel like right now we are in very dangerous territory where these people can just wake up any day and claim anything. And this reminds me of something that Nani alikuwa amesema, like a lie on Facebook. And a lie, of course, nimekuwa nikibonga juu ya the fact that right now he's one of the biggest supporters of this regime. And if you think that it's a coincidence that he's also battling a land case somewhere, then you must not, maybe hauko sharp as you think, because don't forget, kama kuna msami battle land cases hapa Kenya, ni His Excellency, najua, William Samoei Ruto. He's been battling land cases since when and when. So, hapo unapata nini? Alai alikuwa ameandika nini? There's something he'd written about history ya Boni. Yes, alikuwa amesema the journalists and media houses who have been cheering the anarchy must also be pursued. So now you have to wonder, which journalists are we talking about? Yeah, you have to think about like in modern day, ama in some Kenyan sort of definition, kuna some podcasting is journalism, because of course we just give our opinions. We are not journalists. No one is cheering in the anarchy. People are just reporting things and saying this is the reason why people are angry. This anger did not come from out of thin air. This anger comes from reading things like the president has donated a brand new Prado to a church, and you're there wondering, where is this money coming from? Because what we chase, like 20 million shillings is life-changing money for a lot of us. Misa hizo nipatie 20 million shillings, it's going to be life-changing money. If I was the average Kenyan, that's enough to do what? That's enough to buy a house. Najua, so I never have to pay rent. Najua kuna so reason hivyo. Other Kenyans, 20 million, it's money that you can invest for it to give you like a certain income that can keep you middle class for the rest of your life. Yeah, middle class, not upper class or anything. Kuna wase wengine hiyo 20 million imetosha wa invest and they go into the upper class. They can grow that into something crazy. So that's how much 20 million is. When someone just on a random weekend goes and contributes that to a church, you have to wonder, where is this money coming from? Because even if it's still selling chicken, where is this chicken being sold? And I say this as someone who has chicken. Niko na chicken masaiza ocha. Na profit hizo vitu hazikuwagi vile unafikiria. Unless maybe nitumie hii chance ku appeal kwa Bwana Samoei. Najua umekuwa ukisupply chicken. Can you show me where you supply those chicken? Pia mimi nichangamke. This podcasting thing is not what it seems. Najua. Unaona linakosewa heshima. You're just a podcaster. You do podcast, don't talk about it. Like, damn, okay. So it's not what some people think it is. It's not a good job. If I can sell chicken, even mpaka nivae jacket ya 7 million. Some way. Eko nene. So, nimeinterrupt show kukupatia some good news. Are you in the UK? Are you in Canada? Are you in Europe? You know what? Good news. Lemfi imefika jo. So, ukiwa masaiza US, ukiwa UK, ukiwa Canada, ukiwa Europe, bado unzabaki umetuma pesa through Lemfi. No sahau, Lemfi ukupatiaga the best exchange rates. Na pia, ile story ya $20 cashback on your first transaction, ile kwa equivalent to $100, hiyo bado iko. So, unangoja nini jo? Usahau tumia promo code ikonene. Yes? Alafu, pia kitu moja na nibamba saizi juu ya Lemfi ni the fact that si lazima ubaki umeseti do kwa your mobile wallet. Uzabaki umetransfer do direct from your debit card ikikuja. Alafu the exchanges themselves zinakuwaga instant. Alafu saizi pia kitu mushina kanikiambia wasi wako US. Jua still unzalipa bills za maparo ka uko maju. Unzalipa aje? Cause till numbers na pay bills pia ziko supported na Lemfi. So nangoja nini? Baki umeinstall Lemfi. Yes? Na umesikia vile nimesema US, UK, Canada, Europe. Chukueni Lemfi. Chap. Kauko Dubai, masaiza UAE. Lemfi ina come soon. Alafu msisahau jo kutumia promo code ikonene. Unangoja nini? Lemfi. International payments for everyone. Let's go back to the show. So, of course, does not matter how much money I have, can never wear nonsense here, 7 million. That's bullshit. Not if I live in a country where people are sleeping hungry. There's so much that I can do with that money. And I guess that's the reason why the Lord works in mysterious ways. People who would change lives will never get the money. People who najua vitu za aibu hapo nimedigress. But sasa so the president alienda paki donate a Prado. Alafu kitu moja inanibamba ni hasa anaendelea kufight Gachagua. Of course Gachagua ukiniuliza, Gachagua is and you cut your gawasi kabisa. Gachagua is a piece of shit. And the reason why I say Gachagua is a piece of shit is the government already is trying to turn this into a tribal fight. And it's desperately trying to say that the only people who are mad at this government are the Kikuyus. This person gets a microphone in the US and turns the whole conversation to be about Kikuyus being, the Mount Kenya being persecuted. Like, how are you supposed to be a national leader if you think like this? Alafu ita una correct mtu, unacheki mtu na kucorrect hapo na ujinga. So wacha tusikize Gachagua kidogo. Umse two wrongs ama two things can be right at the same time. It was wrong for Gachagua to be impeached the way he was impeached. That's number one. Number two, Gachagua was not fit to be a deputy president of Kenya. Gachagua should be the leader of the Council of Elders, Kikuyu Council of Elders. He does not belong anywhere next to a nation. And this is the reason. Mtu alipanda ndege kwenda kusema hiyo ujinga. Acha tumsikize.
It's under siege at home. And when you destroy this community, you destroy Kenya. We are the drivers of the Kenyan economy. Since William Ruto declared war on the mountain, the economy is almost collapsing because people have stopped paying taxes, people have stopped investing, they are waiting for a new government. The way you are holding your money here, that is what people are doing in Kenya. Even ourselves, we do biashara kidogo kidogo, tumeshika kidogo tungoje mambo ibadilike. This is a community that is responsible for the growth of the Kenyan economy. And that is why you are successful here, because that's the way we were born. We are very aggressive people. We are very enterprising. We are very outgoing. And that is why we are in every town in Kenya.
So, this kumekuwaga na hii facade that if you come to business ingenuity, there are some communities that are better than others. And inakuwaga very sad, especially when politicians use that. This was used by Uhuru during the story Nairobi business community when there used to be protests za Raila, and now it's being pushed by this guy. I can say this. Number one, nimeishi Nairobi like all my life. I've seen very different business people. I've seen mionye kwa natoka Luo household, so I saw my mother. That woman used to be a hustler. Nishaambiaga hizo stories zote, from selling weed to selling stuff zimetoka kwa airport. So hizi stuff za airport ziko zinaletwa na boy fulani alikuwa anaitwa Kamau. Yeah, alikuwa Kamau. Kamau alikuwa na wakigi hizo siku. Airports used to be different because what used to happen is ndege zikikuja na hizo knives and forks, they somehow wakipatiwa wazioshe, they used to just come out with them and sell them, blah blah blah. Kienda wacha kwetu kuna organizo mavijiko za Swiss Air and blah blah blah. So in household yetu, I've seen Kikuyu businessmen, I've seen Luya businessmen, I've seen Masais, I've seen Kalenjins, there's nothing like a community that does business and the rest don't do business. Nimeona Ujakani, that is, nimeenda nikapata masupplier, kamjaka fulani kanadu hivi, huyu anadu hivi. So hii nonsense ya kwanza, alafu this is what the government wants. The government wants to put this ikwe that one community has stopped paying taxes. Everyone is paying taxes. Every community pays taxes. Is there some level of wealth disparity? Yes. The wealth disparity in Kenya is, kuna joke fulani ya Rapture wagakali kabisa. Yo bonga jia, ilikuwa kwa Rapture the Scientist, Rowan and Katwan. Alikuwa na bonga jia poverty. So he talks about kuna wase wishi below the poverty line. Kuna wase kwa poverty line itself. I'm not doing this joke justice. It's funny as hell. Then kuna wase kwa above poverty. Then anaanza na stories za richer politicians Wahindi. Nacheki. Alafu watu wanachekaga sana because the punchline inakuwa hiyo kitu ya Wahindi. And let's concentrate on upper politicians. Politics is the reason why if we remove Indians from the equation, politics is the reason why some of the richest Kenyans are Kikuyus and Kalenjins. This is the reason why politics in Kenya is life or death. Angalia saa hizi. There's an argument to be made that the richest person in Kenya is Kalenjin, Ruto. What has Ruto produced that's out of this world? There's nothing. The only thing that he's done is all of a sudden SHA kitu ya 13 billion may cost 104 billion. So 91 billion imeenda pahali. Tuangalie Uhuru, Northlands. The whole of Uhuru family inasemekana ina own over 500,000 acres. Why? But if you have this money and you want to distribute it, of course, you're going to, the community that's around you is going to benefit first before the rest of the people benefit. Proximity to Nairobi also will fool you. Just have proximity, because ukiangalia hata the proximity to Nairobi itafanya wase wa Central watakuwa wengi na hii than wase wa other regions. But to lie to yourself that there is a community that drives the economy, there is it is nonsense. And this is what Ruto wants, to turn this into tribal fight. And this also reminds me of ukiangalia the slavery in America and how they did it. There was the aspect of white people who are poor and they were made to believe that they were superior to other like black people. Like it does not matter what a nigger has, you are way uko juu yake. And that narrative has been used till today, and that's why racism exists. This is the same narrative that this clown is pushing, the narrative of this tribe controls the economy. Without this tribe, the economy would not be. Alafu, because of your pride, utapata kuna mseiko kia uga ni oguo kutire kido. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo jo, hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Na kama you hurt feelings zako, and Gachagua is your therapist, jo ni iko nene jo, sikuagi hapa kusuit egos. There is no tribe that's superior in business. There is no tribe that's inferior in business. And there's a reason why political wealth in Kenya. This is the reason why inakulikuwa na kitabu juu Moi inaitwa It's Our Turn to Eat. Kenyan politics has always meant wealth. And that's the reason why the few communities that have had presidents from their community become president have ended up being wealthy. The few people around that president have ended up being super wealthy. Do we have like some genius business people? Yes. The idea behind equity, that was genius. That one hakuna mtu anaweza take away from that. But everything else, tell me what separates this from this. There's nothing. And don't be lied to. So this is the reason why I think this guy does not deserve national leadership. He is someone of a Kikuyu Council of Elders. He's never, hautaisikiaga any point where Gachagua stands and says, we as a country, inakuaga tu watu wa mulima. Like, this is a country, man. We are trying to unite. Look at how much good we can do when you're united. For once, Kenyans are fighting as one. And what's happening? The president is panicking and charging everyone with treason and terrorism. But this one clown decides it's a tribal thing. And people don't see how much that damages everything. This is not a tribal thing. This is a thing about Kenya as a country and how everyone pays taxes. Yu jinga ya Karen Nyamo. Nakumbuka Karen Nyamo last year akiambia watu like mnatetaje na mlipagi tax. Everything in this country is taxed. Everything. Your salary is taxed. And if you don't have a salary, stima yako inakuwa taxed. Na kama si stima ni mafuta. Kama nani ana survive bila stima na mafuta na everyone pays taxes. So even wale watu wanasema the informal sector does not pay tax. They pay taxes when it's time to buy stuff. Bread is taxed. This is taxed. This is taxed. This is like everything inakuwaga taxed in this country. So this is the reason why I think this is a clown, and the fact that he's gone to the US to spew this nonsense. Cha tuendelee kidogo.
That is why here I have done some check. 80% of the diaspora brigade in the United States are people from the mountain.
I doubt that. I really doubt that. Okay, nilikuwa majuu last year na meet people from all over. But yeah, maybe 80%. Maybe I don't know math. That means 4 out of every 5 people. Okay. If you believe that, you believe that. Is it true that Wasapere ndio wengi majuu? Of course, the biggest tribe has to have the biggest population out there. Up next, after Wasapere, I'd expect Kalenjin still. Because Pia, don't forget, there's the aspect of proximity to power and the benefits that comes with. So that would also bring up another factor of that. But to claim that the rest 20% wamelala tu, 80% ndio wametoka. So this is some cattle dip shit. Najua vile wasana sema he is not fit enough to be the leader of a cattle dip. You are in a foreign country, man. Sell the Kenyan agenda. Like, what's so hard? Like, even pretend in your mind. Go and teach yourself how to, every time you want to say Mount Kenya, say Kenyans. Lie to you, like, rewire your brain. You can't use this brain for national leadership. This is why this clown, we need him to help us turn this Nini into a one term. But ile impeachment should stay there forever. This dude belongs in political oblivion. He does not belong anywhere next to leadership. This nonsense that the government is pushing right now of tribalism, this dude is making that narrative thrive. Every time, every minute, watu wa mulima. We are Kenyans. And that has to be the first thing that comes to mind. Na niko sure saizi nimehurt a few feelings. Kan nimehurt feelings zako, jiachilia hapo kwa comments, unaweza niambia vile una plan unsubscribe na vile kaa hizo sikuagi hapa kusuit egos. Unajua mimi ndio subscribe mwafuta ulikuwa gamse bril, lakini saizi unasema nini hii kwenda huko.
Because that is who we are. We are very aggressive people. We are very organized people. We are very hardworking. We are very focused. So I want to ask you, you have a lot of influence back at home. Because those families you support, those people you support, they listen to you. Please talk to them and tell them that in the space we are, we must stay united.
This one thing is right, Apo, to stay united. But when you start separating people along tribal lines, and you start telling them that they are somehow, this tribe is superior to this other one, this is the nonsense that we end up getting with. So hii fala inafaa kuwa tu iko pahali ikirana cattle dip. But still, vile musemaga, two things can be right at the same time. As much as this dude belongs kwa cattle dip, as much as we are, when we are attacking him, we also have to be reasonable. Kuna some attack nilibaki nimecheki imetoka from Kimani Ichung'wah, and it was just pathetic. Najua, I know it gets ugly in politics and we need to go all out, but Iraya imeitwa wife wa Ruto for so long that yeye mwenyewe ilibidi baki ametumia a wife insult. So wacha tumsikize.
Wakabila watakuja wakienda Ukambani waseme hai kazi, sababu wanataka kutenganisha Wakamba na Wamasai. Alafu wakija kwa Wamasai waseme unajua mimi hata ukiangalia mapu yangu mimi ni shemeji yenyu, na wewe bibi yako ni hapo tu amekukalia kitako, umekaliwa hata uwezi pumua, hata uwezi ongea kama bibi hajaongea. Si unaonanga hiyo mtu akienda lazima bibi aongee kwanza ili apewe ruhusa ya kuongea. Sasa wewe mwanaume umekaliwa na bibi, utakuja kuambia wanaume wengine nini? Tunaambia one time kwenda ambia bibi yako.
Enyejo Gachagua wagamekulisha Iraya moto. The reason amekulisha moto ni the fact that Iraya pia guaranteed yeye mwenyewe harudi tena as the MP wa Kikuyu. So you have to understand the level of frustration that he has, that this dude comes from nowhere, ends up like, what is it called, adopting this whole constituency, becoming the kingpin. Because don't forget, tribal politics is still real. So he ends up doing that. So for all Kenyans who look at things tribally, Gachagua is the shit. Nacheki, that's why niko 100% sure there'll be people losing their mind hapa chini. And so ilikuwa poa sana kuona mse akilose shit yake. But now, of course, vile amesema Gachagua amekaliwa, that's one thing. Acha tuendelee kidogo.
Aende asiende? Siende akaambia one time bibi yake. Hata kwake atakaa one time sababu akizubaa bibi ako na bishop mwingine, bwana yake mwingine. Yeye ni bwana ya one time, bibi yako na mwanaume mwingine bishop. Najua mabishop wako hapa Pulei. Si bishop wewe Pulei unajua iko mabishop wengine wakora? Si wako wengine? Hatunaji.
Damn. So umecheki ana insinuate that kuna vile nani anapepetwa huko nje. na mtu mwingine. Of course this is that bullshit that can't be confirmed, but that's how the ugly fight is happening. But this is on an old school sort of level, and this is that old school politics. So as we finish up, of course, na stories za Boni, so Boni atakuwa arraigned in court, and she notice namseka Boniface Mwangi. This guy has been able to make people forget he's called Mwangi. That anytime we hear about Boniface Mwangi, we think of a Kenyan. Every time we hear about Gachagua, we think of someone from the mountain. How sad is that? That you've risen and you've become the second in command in a country, but no one sees you beyond your tribe. How sad is that? Najua. And no one is saying that anyone is supposed to what tunafaa kusahau tribes zetu z, but we also need some level of nationhood. For this country to go to the next level, we can't just be about tribes. Siwezi kuwa na kachini niko sasa watu waziwa nini nafanyikia watu waziwa sisi kama samaki kwenda huko. I need to be able to understand that what's good for Kenya will be good for Luos. What's good for Kenya will be good for Masais. It will be good for Kalenjins, good for Kikuyus, good for coastal people, good for everyone. What's good for Kenya is good for all of us. When one person just pushes this, that's why Uraya, yes, ilikuwa impeached, but ikuende kabisa. And wacha tusikize vile nani Hussein Khalid alibonga juu ya Boni tukimalizia hii story, because hii story ya terrorism is just I don't even know how to put it, but yes, let's go through this again.
Yeah, so as colleagues have said, we've seen Boniface Mwangi. He's in high spirits. Of course, his courage has also been praised by the police, and we are asking Kenyans to continue to stand in solidarity with Boniface Mwangi and human rights activists who are currently on the receiving end from the excesses of the state. It's very, very unfortunate, extremely unfortunate, that Kenya as a country has decided to follow the path of authoritarian regimes to use terrorism laws to silence dissent, to silence human rights defenders, and to intimidate those who are criticizing the government.
And mwachiketa unsa kibonga anabonga juu ya we as Kenyans, because hata ukiangalia hii kitu moja ile nilibamba, that even after Boni kushikwa, the outrage was from everyone. It was not right from a community ama from what, it was from everyone. And even the memes that were coming out, nakunga kulikuwa na hii meme walitumia akamseka kanini mseni family guy kakua mnatuona matako yenu. I remember seeing that. Alafu nakumkanikiwa na ingine ile ilikuwa imepostiwa na boy fulani hapo, ilikuwa ni do church leaders like cars. Hiyo ilikuwa kuenjoy Kasongo na mambo yake ya kudonate gari. And kulikuwa na nini tena nilibaki nimecheki. Yes, another one ilikuwa nilicheki hii poster pia ilikuwa shared na Cyprian Nyakundi. Ile ilikuwa patriot, a corrupt MP, terrorist, a Kenyan taxpayer, then kwa Kenya terrorism now. Then kuna hizi mangodha za kawaida hizi noko zile ngodha zilitumika za Jumaisi. Hii ilikuwa shared, I think Kibet Bull alikuwa ameshare hii akionyesha like the sort of evidence that's being used against Boni. Of course it's like some bullshit evidence. So this is what happened. And I remember kuna mse fulani alikuwa ameshare the Kenyan facts, ama the Kenyan researcher, kwa Nairobi in 1954 the city had barbed wire and sandbags ready for what was expected to be a military style onslaught by the Mau Mau. Then imewekwa alafu Mwango capital akaendeka, and 71 years later akapost ile kitu ile happen time ya protests za I think ilikuwa ni June 25th. Yes, ama ni Saba I think one of the two. And that's the situation that we have hapa Kenya, where right now the citizens are being called terrorists, and we need to stay united. We need to be one. And this is the worst time to start looking at each other as from this tribe and that tribe and this tribe and that tribe. It's the time to start looking at Kenya as Kenyans. And when they are arresting terrorists, I think another thing that someone ended up sharing was that famous quote ya Faramalim. Faramalim alisema, if I was the president, I could have angeua 5,000 Gen Z protesters daily. That person was not arrested. Nacheki. And this is what we have. A very sad situation. I think another meme nilipaki nimecheki, Kibet Bull alikuwa ameshare, ilikuwa hapo kwa chat sheet, andika he's a criminal, add tear gas canisters, hatuwezi kosa. So yeah, this is the situation that we have. So this is what we have, where for protesting you can be called a terrorist. And yeah, wacha tabaki tumecheki what's going to happen to Boni. Are they going to end up holding him for 21 days as they do the investigations? Or is the court system going to see through this bullshit? Protests happen, and during protests, riots happen. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to catch the perpetrators. It was very clear that the Nairobi governor had hired goons, and the goons were out here saying they'd been hired by the Nairobi governor. These goons ended up going, beating up women, beating up men, pia, robbing stores, and the Nairobi governor has never even been summoned by the police. Another image that we saw was the police working hand in hand with goons. The goons would be there with their marungus, as itagarungu za Sakaja, while the police would be there with their guns. For you to turn around and say that someone who we've always known as a patriot, najua, there are few fools who will call him a commercial activist and all that nonsense. No one can pay you enough to be beaten and arrested and thrown in jail and history yake sexually assaulted. Hakuna mtu anaweza kulipa for that. But everyone is entitled to their opinion. So we have this situation. What will happen to Boni leo? I don't know. What will happen to the rest of us tomorrow? Pia sijui. Because the more that they see that people are not getting afraid, the more that they'll use intimidation. And this is because the president is surrounded by fools. Otherwise, if you're surrounded by other people, saa hizi, the president had a win. Watoi, event ya mto yake ilijaa. That was the time to retreat. That you'll be like, you know what? They started forgetting. Let's do. Tuko nafaa kushika Boni, wacha tusimshike saa hizi. Wacha tu, let's enjoy this W. No. Immediately they're like, where's that L? Wacha tuende tumshike. So yeah, that's the situation that we have. Welcome to Kenya. Where wewe ni nani jo? Wewe ni Mkenya ama wewe ni terrorist? Iko nene.